Hello, welcome to my presentation on carpal tunnel syndrome by me, Matthew Loera. So basically, carpal tunnel syndrome is when pressure in the nerve in your wrist, in this area, like something in here becomes swollen, causes pressure, and the nerve going to these fingers and half of this finger right here, and it starts causing pain, tingling, or numbness because of the pressure on the nerve in here. I forgot to mention, you can see in the picture there's also tendons and obviously the nerve, which I mentioned, but there's tendons and a ligament that goes across the top. It's all in the picture. As I mentioned before, you can have numbness or pain, which will be in your hand, your wrist, or your forearm. It can also be experienced as the occasional tingling or numbness, like as if your hand fell asleep, which many people have experienced. If the condition continues, then the numbness or pain will get worse, and the aching can travel to your arm, between your elbow and wrist, and also you can start developing stiffness in your fingers, especially in the morning when you first wake up. If the condition continues and it starts to become severe, the pain and numbness will continue, and you will start to lose strength in your hand here, and you won't be able to grip objects as well. You'll start to accidentally drop them, and you'll have difficulty doing simple everyday tasks such as brushing your hair or your teeth, or even holding a fork. The condition can get to the point where it'll become difficult to pinch an object between your thumb and first finger, like so. Right, so people who have had CTS for a long time will drop it. They will also have difficulty opening a jar or bottle using their thumb. The muscles here will start to get smaller and weaker because of underuse, so they will undevelop. A couple of risk factors for CTS, or carpal tunnel syndrome, are repeated hand movements. So someone who types a lot constantly have their hands moving back and forth across the keyboard, or let's say a waitress who's constantly holding plates or pouring coffee. It puts a lot of stress on these tendons, which can cause them to swell, which puts pressure on the nerve. Also, buildup of fluid in this area can also cause a pressure on the nerve, which can occur from pregnancy or rheumatoid arthritis or diabetes. So broken bones, or specifically the wrist bones, can reduce the amount of space in here, which can cause pressure on the nerve. Now, when these broken bones re-heal, these new bone growth can heal in certain ways that can also reduce the space in there and also put pressure on that nerve, as well as tumors growing in there, which is not very common, but it can happen. One risk factor is just pure aging and normal wear and tear. So as you get older, the more likely you are to develop carpal tunnel syndrome. And the last risk factor would be smoking, which just adds one more thing to the list as why you shouldn't smoke. The reason smoking is a risk factor is that it can reduce blood flow to the median nerve, which is the nerve that runs through your wrist right here. The reduced blood flow can cause those sensations. The pathology of CTS is rather simple. Basically, something in your carpal tunnel, which consists of a hole made by your wrist bones and the transverse carpal ligament, which through that hole travels the flexor tendons and the median nerve, along with some other stuff. And what happens is something in there becomes swollen, whether it becomes swollen with fluid, the tendons get swollen, or the nerve itself becomes swollen, and that puts pressure on the nerve, which causes the numbness, pain, or tingling in the thumb, index finger, middle finger, and half of the ring finger. Some treatments for carpal tunnel syndrome include fixing other medical problems that may be causing the condition, or changing activities, or taking breaks from repetitive tasks which are aggravating the tendons or the nerve, or wearing a wrist splint which keeps your wrist straight so that it doesn't move or bend during the night, and also using NSAIDs, which are non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, to reduce inflammation in the wrist. A treatment that's one of the last resorts for carpal tunnel syndrome is surgery. What they'll do is cut open the transverse ligament that seals the carpal tunnel. This will open it up, allowing space in this area, which would hopefully reduce pressure on the nerve and relieve or ease the symptoms of carpal tunnel syndrome. These are my references. Thanks for paying attention. Now, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.